Your favorite sportsbook, BetUS.com, is back for its 28th year of NFL action. Just click the link below in my description box and sign up today. BetUS.com, where the game begins. Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. I would like to sincerely apologize to all of you. I failed you. My job is to never waver or bow down to fan pressure and to tell you exactly what I think. But that's unfortunately what I exactly did not do. Because after Jayden Daniels won the quarterback job and he had a good game against Southern, I told you, you know what? I was wrong about Jayden Daniels' ability as a passer. But the only reason why I said that is because I had some nasty accusations against me by fans accusing me of being biased against Jayden Daniels. And you know what happened? I got scared. And as soon as I saw Jayden Daniels make a nice throw against Southern, I made a whole video apologizing about it and tweeting about it and how wrong I was and shame on me. You know what? Fuck me for doing that. Fuck me. And since then, I have made so many excuses trying to defend Jayden Daniels as a passer because, well, you're not supposed to criticize player. Look at all the things. I'm done with this shit. I'm done. My evaluations on Jayden Daniels was right. And if you think I'm an asshole for saying that all summer long and all fall long, then I'm sorry. I'm sorry I don't have the same opinion as you do. I'll try to do better next time. Okay, sweetheart? I hope you can forgive me. Moving on to Auburn. That was not pretty. That was not even fun, necessarily, depending on who you ask. But, as I said after the Florida State game, LSU fans, enjoy this. Enjoy the come-up under Brian Kelly. Everyone remembers the come-up of Nick Saban in 2000 and 2001. You think fondly of those bygone days now, but at the time, it was probably very frustrating and a little too inconsistent for your taste. But other than, say, when you played Florida those 2 years, how many times were they blown out? How many close games were they in? Now, part of the process of building a new culture is going through phases. Trust phase, then to build toughness, accountability, playing from behind. You got to learn to play when you're a huge favorite as well. But another big step is finding a way to win on the road or even at home, despite the fact that you can't seem to do a damn thing right. LSU did that. You know how whenever you watch these great teams and great organizations in sports, specifically in football, like Alabama or in Clemson, or in the NFL recently with the New England Patriots dynasty, they do everything wrong in certain games where they're just, they're not on their A game, they're playing like crap, they're playing an inferior opponent, but they just won't go away. For some reason, they just won't go away, and they somehow pull it out of their ass at the last second and find a way to win. LSU did that Saturday. That was another big test. LSU did that, and you cannot take that for granted. It was a culture win. Having said that, you can still criticize things after a win. You should, because winning minimizes weaknesses and problems that you otherwise would overlook. But something tells me this will not be overlooked because people are acting like Auburn was a loss. Because LSU had 5 passing yards in the second half. 5. You had 85 total yards. And 39 of those passing yards were in a dump-off pass to John Emery in the first half.
You know, it's pretty clear this team plays with great heart, and they'll fight. But heart and fight will not win games against the opponents that we're going to have over the next month or so. We're going to have better execution. We're going to have to coach better. And those things we're going to have to be on display starting this weekend against an outstanding Tennessee football team.
Okay, you know how I said I have a hard time believing Brian Polian became a bad special teams coach overnight? It's got to be something else, right? Well, you're telling me that LSU's offensive line, who's being graded out with a good pass protection week after week, I am now to believe that Jayden Daniels has so much time to throw, but these LSU wide receivers aren't able to get any separation on that many damn pass plays. Kayshon Boutte, Malik Neighbors, Jack Besh, Brian Thomas Jr., all of them now just suck and can't get separation. Well, maybe it's the coaching. Okay, fine. So Mike Denbrock averaged over 45 points a game at Cincinnati. Cortez Hankton, the wide receivers coach, played 7 years in the NFL, had helped and improved every single wide receiving core at every single job he's ever held, including last year at Georgia. They just became stupid overnight. So all these players, all these coaches, wide receivers, the offensive coordinator, the passing game coordinator, wide receiver coach, they all just became stupid overnight. They all just became bad and slow overnight. And all these people also saying Kayshon Boutte needs to just leave the team because he's a locker room cancer. Shut up. That is a stupid-ass thing to say. There are mountains of video evidence of Kayshon Boutte celebrating with his teammates after the Mississippi State game, after the Auburn game, on the field, in the locker room, multiple instances where he's dancing and celebrating with his teammates. You just got upset because there was one pass that he dropped against Florida State, and he got mopey on the sidelines for a few minutes, and then he deleted his Instagram post, which, by the way, the coaches told him to do that. So now you think, well, he's an asshole. Okay, are the passes being dropped? Yes, the passes are being dropped. And the wide receivers, all of them, need to take responsibility for that. But from my understanding, when the ball isn't being thrown your way all game long, it's really hard to stay mentally engaged for any offensive player. And any former player will tell you this. It's not making excuses, but at the same time, it's a reason. It's a reason. And we saw dropped passes, not just from Kayshon, but from Brian Thomas Jr. When Nussmeier went into the game, we've seen drop passes from Malik Neighbors. Now, some of that is on Jayden Daniels. Some of that is also on play calling. But I'm really confused, really, as to why every offensive game plan looks exactly the same every damn week. It's the same thing. First half, Denbrock is calling an offense that has Jayden Daniels sit in the pocket, reading the whole field like a pocket passer. The offense goes stagnant because Jayden Daniels is not good at being a pocket passer. And then towards the end of the first half, all throughout the second half, Denbrock, he calls more RPOs, zone reads, and then read options for Jayden Daniels. Now, I don't know why that is. I don't know why they don't just run more of what Jayden Daniels is comfortable with from beginning to end. Maybe it's because they're trying to coach something into him to be a better passer. But brother, it's 33 starts into his college career. I don't know what else you need to do. I don't. And by the way, all these people calling for Nuss to now start. Okay, I don't know if Nuss is going to start over Jayden Daniels based on performance, like I predicted what would happen this offseason. I thought that's what would happen because that's what happened with other Brian Kelly quarterback controversies. So even though I predicted that would happen this season, I'm telling you right now, I don't know if Nuss going in is going to automatically fix some of those passing problems. I don't. That's why I'm not going to go there. I'm not going to go there and say, we'll just put Nuss in and that'll fix the problems, because I don't know if it will or not. I don't. But what does piss me off are the mouth-breathing stat watchers who just say, well, Nuss went 2 for 6 with 5 yards in the second half. He wasn't much better. Okay. I'm going to try to say this as nicely as I can for people who haven't heard me say this yet, but I'm assuming many of you have. Stop looking at stats to evaluate a quarterback. 2 of those passes were dropped. The one that sailed over Mason Taylor's head was when Nuss went into mid-drive, cold, without loosening up his arm, when he was backed up against the Auburn student section. Okay? Stop looking at stats to evaluate a quarterback. Completion percentage is not a measurement of quarterback accuracy or performance. Completion percentage, and I can't believe I have to say this because most of you know it, but I feel like I have to. All completion percentage is there to just tell you if a pass was completed or incompleted. A bad pass can be caught. A good pass can be tipped, intercepted, or dropped by the wide receiver. It has nothing to do with whether that pass was good or accurate or not. It just means, did they complete it? Did it hit the ground or not? Stats are a tool, not the truth. I said all along, I don't care what Jayden Daniels' passer rating was through the first 4 weeks of the season. I don't care what his completion percentage stats were at all. I looked at the games. I watched the games. He is not a good passer. And that got exposed against Auburn. It's empty stats that mean nothing. The only argument people have against playing Nussmeier at this point, and it's understandable, is, well, he doesn't protect the football. Okay, I'm fine with that logic. And by the way, I'm for that if that's really a huge issue. I'd rather win ugly and grind it out with, play defense, run the ball, than just give the ball away constantly, 4, 3, 5 times a game. I'm fine with that. However, this narrative that Jayden Daniels is better at protecting the ball because he makes good decisions is somewhat bullshit. And I'll explain what I mean. Jayden Daniels has 0 interceptions this year so far. Through, 5 games in? 5 games in, 0 interceptions. That's not necessarily a good thing. And Brian Kelly explained perfectly why that is.
I don't want to throw interceptions. That's not what I want to do. I don't want to turn the ball over. We haven't thrown any. That's not necessarily a bad thing in one respect, but if you're looking to be aggressive, you're going to throw an interception or two because somebody made a great play, because you trust that you're going to throw it in there. And we got to get Jayden to be a little bit more on that edge and be a little bit more aggressive. And we will. We'll get there with him. Because that's the nature of this position. This position has to be, with the skill players that we have, we've got to get that ball down the field, and we got to get it into some tight windows sometimes. They're not always going to be wide open, but those guys can make plays, and we got to get them the ball.
Thank you. The head coach finally said it. Look, the best analogy that I can give you is asking you a question. Okay. Which quarterback throws more interceptions? Alex Smith or Patrick Mahomes? It's Patrick Mahomes. It's not even close. But let me ask you this. Which quarterback would you rather have as your starting quarterback? Alex Smith or Patrick Mahomes? See, there is this notion that an interception is automatically a bad thing and makes you a bad quarterback. No. A quarterback throwing an interception is inevitable. It's inevitable, okay? Now, if you throw too much of them, sure, that's a bad thing, but you know what's worse? A quarterback that never is throwing an interception. That's a bigger red flag. It's almost like, here's another analogy for you. It's like a couple who never gets into an argument or a fight. Well, marriage counselors will tell you that that's way worse than a couple that fights all the time. At least they're airing their grievances out. If you're never fighting, that means you're just holding it all in and it's not going to end well. There's nothing wrong with being a little risky. Nothing wrong with that. I mean, just because you throw an interception does not necessarily mean, as I said, that was a bad pass or a bad decision. Shit happens. Hell, it could act as a punt if it gets intercepted at the 10-yard line. Remember the interception that Joe Burrow threw against Auburn in 2019? He was trying to throw to the end zone. The passing game wasn't getting going. He threw to, I believe it was Terrace Marshall, towards the end zone, and he got picked off at the 1-yard line. Well, it basically acted as a punt. The offense was struggling. He was trying to take a risk. It was one-on-one coverage, and he threw a bad pass and it was intercepted. Okay, now they take the ball at the 10-yard line. Big whoop. Big whoop. You tried. No risk it, no biscuit. You got to take some good with the bad. Now, here becomes the question. Can Brian Kelly and his staff coach that, slightly more aggressiveness or ballsiness into Jayden Daniels? I don't know. As I said, this is 33 starts into his college career. Look, in my experience in watching football, it's way easier to coach recklessness out of a reckless quarterback, and it's way harder to coach a conservative quarterback to be a little bit more ballsy. That's just my experience. Now, maybe that's all it is, okay? But my guess is that they don't trust Nussmeier to protect the ball. They don't trust him to not be reckless. Risky versus recklessness. But here's another big problem that Brian Kelly's going to have to deal with. This is the third game in a row where Jayden Daniels has either gotten up gingerly or had to go into the medical tent and not return to the game. Mississippi State, he gets up gingerly a few times, has to walk it off. He has a cut above his eye. New Mexico goes into the medical tent, doesn't go back in. Auburn, same thing. 3 games in a row. This is October the 3rd. This cannot be sustainable at this point. So, if you're Brian Kelly, you better do one or two things. Either make Jayden Daniels a better passer down the field, or teach Nuss to not be too reckless with the ball. You got to do one of those two things, because at this point, I don't really think you have a choice. Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Or follow me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok in the description link below.